The reason I became a U.S. government contractor is that I grew up in a military family. My parents were both military. I blogged about this off and on over the course of almost 700 blogs. But I haven't been specific in terms of the deeper information. So, the reason I became a government contractor is I was smart enough to know when graduating from high school, when I was seeing friends of mine go to work at different IT companies. By the way, I'm One Sir Grove. This is Casting 495 Celebrities Worldwide. C4CW, thank you for tuning in. If you are a true fan, then we 495 most fucking certainly appreciate you. But yeah, man, the basic bottom line is I became a government contractor for flexibility purposes. Because I just saw the trends, man, because one of the things that I learned in the analytic tradecraft of it all, knowing that I was going to ultimately be working in government as a U.S. defense contractor, I just saw these people getting locked into these roles at these companies where they could easily be fucking terminated. I'll give you an example. Boeing. I have relatives and have known people, friends of mine who have worked at Boeing. And when I was a youth, Boeing provided a great deal of stability. You would hear that. I mean, I fucking lived down the street from Boeing. I literally lived in Mukilteo, Washington, which was like, just like, I could jog to Boeing in like 5 minutes. Man, I don't even think it was that, about 5 minutes. But it was literally like the total campus, like the property, I guess, the expanse of the property, at the edge of the property line, from that edge, on the, I guess that would be, okay, that's north, that's, so north, hold on, let me do the math. Never eat sour wheat. All right, sextant, celestial navigation. Okay, so that's south, so that's north, so that's clearly east. Yeah, fuck. So, heading, no. That's not. Wait, hold on. Let me think about the chords for a second. Whoa. No, because east is the other direction, so it's clearly fucking west. All right. Man, that's westward? Wow. What a trip. Yeah, so from the property line going west, that's so fucking weird that's west, man. That is bizarre. Because eastern Washington is the other direction, so that's clearly fucking west. Looking at the map, north, east, west, yeah. Wow. I guess if you go beyond that, no, okay, yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so going westward from the property line, if I ran at full fucking speed, I could have been at my place, man, where I used to live, right down by the coast, in 60 seconds. I could have been at my condo there in 3 minutes, man, like the number after 2. That's how fucking close I lived to Boeing headquarters. So I knew a lot of fucking people, man, growing up, like relatives, cousins, you know what I mean? Like friends, like, you know, later after high school, they went to work there. My buddy from childhood, his mother worked there and dad worked there. And then I had relatives of my own, like many, I know a lot of people who have worked at Boeing. And so when I was a youth, man, Boeing provided stability. Like, it was job stability. But then there came this time when there were all these pink slips rolling out, and it was on the news, and there were all these demonstrations and all this kind of stuff with the labor union and yada, yada, yada. And so then things changed. The dynamics changed. And then I was like, yo, man, these people work at these places, man, for 20 years or whatever, and they can fucking get laid off just like that. Then I saw things where people, like, had almost paid off their mortgages on their homes. And then, boom, the fucking bank takes back their homes. And these are good people. These are good people, man. So that's when I realized at a young age, man, in my early 20s, I realized that the economy was different, and that stability that we used to have in America, it didn't exist anymore so much. And that, you know, you could just be let go, man. No matter how well you perform, no matter how long you've been at a company, man, they can just fucking can you. And so I was like, you know what, man, fuck all that noise. And then I had friends going to work, like buddy of mine, same friend of mine from childhood whose mother worked at Boeing. He himself got a job at Microsoft shortly after high school. Like, he just went and got his GED. He's like, man, fuck high school. Like, I'm beyond this shit. This shit is easy to me. He went and got his GED and then got a job at Microsoft. And I blogged about this before, podcast. And another dude that I know, that dude and I drove him, the first dude, down to Seattle. And he went to an interview, and he ended up getting a job at Microsoft. He was very young at the time. So we were like, bro, you did it, man. That's amazing. Fucking, you're brilliant. Like, excellent, outstanding type shit, right? Man, he was there coming up on, because it was temp to hire. He was coming up on the 90-day mark when they were going to hire him. And we were all excited for him, like, yo, bro, you did it. You pulled it off. Because we had another buddy, the first friend of ours, not the one that drove to Seattle to drop him off, but another person, a third person. He was actually the first of our peer group to get a job at Microsoft, and he stayed at Microsoft. But the buddy that I started this conversation about, he was coming up on 90 days where they were going to hire him permanently, and I was like, yo, bro, that's dope, man. You about to fucking be straight. And he's like, nah, Grove, I'm leaving Microsoft. And I was like, dude, no, what? Shut up, bro. He's like, nah, Grove, I ain't staying here. And I'm like, you're tripping, man. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're not serious. And he's like, nah, for real, I'm serious. I'm about to bounce. And I was like, bro, it's you know, it's the dream of a lifetime, right? Opportunity of a lifetime is what I meant. Dream come true. And, you know, Mandela effect. Sometimes my idioms get like crossed. And I also deal with big data. So, a lot of information, nearly a half a century on this planet. So, anyway, he's like, nah, dude, I'm going over to this other tech company, leaving Microsoft. He's like, it's been a cool, fun ride, but I found out that I could get paid more at this other company. And I was like, bro, that sounds really fucking risky and really sketchy. And he's like, nah, I've made my decision. So he went over to another company, a telecom at the time. And I was just like, wow, bro. And then he went to a third company. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So that's when the whole, like, you work 20 years at a company and retire thing was out the fucking door. Because he wasn't the only one doing it. Friends that worked at other major companies, tech companies and other, they were bouncing around from this job to that job and this and that. So I was like, yo, I don't know about the military, but I'll go and take the ASVAB, kind of consider it, think about it. I've already talked about this before. But the point is I realized after I had entered the workplace and was working, doing different types of jobs, telemarketing, working with an IT group where we were going around working on computer systems at people's private residences and business locations. Man, we did some work at the Swedish hospital in Seattle. We worked on their network. I worked at on a project at a law firm downtown Seattle. Worked in different parts of like Ballard and Bellevue, and so and all over, man. Just Kirkland, just all over the Pacific Northwest, Puget Sound. So my IT group that I was working with, where we would go around and work on computers and computer networks, I started to hire people to go out and work on jobs and whatnot. I knew, man, seeing those same trends that I just depicted and described there, I saw where in the statistics that were being published at the time, that it was no longer the tradition where you would graduate from high school and then you would go and work for a company for 20 years and then you would retire. They were saying that people were, what was it, like some crazy shit, like people get married like 5 times now type shit and divorced. And I'm just like, what? And they're like, yeah, people are choosing to prolong their entry into the workplace immediately exiting high school. So instead of getting out of high school and going directly to like college, I'm sorry, not the workplace. They were expediting, hastening, going into the workplace to work, as opposed to going into, college after high school. So you saw a lot of people who wouldn't even go to fucking college like right after high school. They're like, no, I'm going to take some years off and I'm going to work. They just work for years, man. I'm just like, damn. So like people weren't even going to college right away. So that became a trend. And then, people were also bouncing around from one college university program to another. So you saw that, people in multiple programs. And so that's when things changed in America. That's when things changed. And no, please, that's why I stopped at the crosswalk for you. And then if you just don't go when it's your turn, then it's kind of defeats the purpose, right? So, but she was very nice. She was very pleasant about it. Body language and just like, her gesture there. So anyway, in terms of trends in America, that's one of the things that I learned to keep an eye out for. So when I was in intelligence studies, security studies, at American Military University, AMU, and independently elsewhere, studying for certification through the Department of Defense for the U.S. Security and Policy Board certification and other programs, certifications, that is. One of the things that I saw in the canon of intel and defense is that trends are vitally important. Obviously, America needs to know what the patterns are, what patterns are emerging, what patterns are developing, what patterns are materializing, what patterns are occurring, what patterns will there be. And when I say patterns, I mean trends synonymously. So looking at those trends, I knew better than to spend a bunch of fucking time to get a job at a federal agency as an employee, which I could have easily have done, to then be working for some fucking piece of shit boss and be locked into some type of financial situation where I was dependent on working at that one particular agency, because I saw that happening to people. So I was like, yo, fuck this. I'm going to be a U.S. defense contractor, which gives me the flexibility to work at different agencies. And if there's a fucking problem, if this shit doesn't, work out, then fuck it. I'll just go to another agency. And that's exactly what I've done. And that's exactly what I've done.